Hey, how you doing? I think this is episode 11, if I'm not mistaken. I screwed up the intro to last week's one on 10 with Johnny Press. Again, my name is Bill McGold-riffs, and welcome to McGold-riffs. And I have one of the top blues guitar players in the city right here with me today, and I'm efforting my effort here to bring you the best and brightest of guitar players in the greater Boston area. So I'm here with Todd Michael Smith, and so let's go through his bio a little bit if we can, okay? Due to a genetic eye disorder that is slowly, unfortunately, causing blindness, Todd Michael Smith, a self-taught musician, hung up his car keys in the late 90s. And we'll talk a little bit about that because of the phenomenon of Lyft and Uber and things like that can help folks who are challenged with eyesight or whatever their challenge is.
Game changer.
It is the game changer in a big way across the board. So he moved from Vermont, the beautiful area, bucolic area, to Boston's Fenway area for some unknown reason. I think it was faithfully just a stone's throw away from my alma mater, Berklee College of Music. Having already completed 1 year, one college degree, for some reason he wanted another one. Todd took the opportunity and plunged headfirst into a double major at the school, primarily concentrating on learning modern production and arranging skills, which are great things to learn along the way, because guitar playing is great at Berklee and you can pick up a ton of stuff just by hanging out in the corridors. But picking up stuff like production and that sort of thing and arranging are great. When he graduated, he began the real work of honing his production and writing craft, hour by hour, day by day, week by week. Gigs included performing, acting as a music director for a 10-piece rock and soul review, guitarist and arranger for folk rock artist Grace Morrison. I want to talk about that. I didn't know about that. Later, he would join noted hard rock outfit Star Faithful, which is a well-known band in this area, on guitar, keys, and backing vocals, performed with the band for about a year. Subbed on occasion for the well-regarded Allman Brothers tribute band, the Peach Eaters, and Alec, the drummer, is a good buddy of mine. Essentially, and that is probably the number one tribute band in this area, the Peach Eaters. If you love the Allman Brothers, check them out. The Peach. The Peach. You were Dwayne. You don't look like Dwayne, man, but you look more like Dickie Betts, I think. You know, but you need the mustache. In 2009, his Irish instrumental, Cliffs of Arran, Aaron. Okay. Got a write-up on Guitar Player magazine. I love Guitar Player magazine. Thousands of hours of working with digital audio led him to recording work at the world-renowned Perkins School for the Blind over in Watertown, creating audiobooks and visually impaired for the visually impaired community. By the time he left Perkins, he was managing the department. In 2014, Todd joined the classic rock-inspired band Rolling Nectar on bass. He did that's 4 strings instead of 6. So he also co-wrote many of Rolling Nectar's songs during his tenure, which ended in 2017. That same year saw him build a vintage rhythm and blues group, Sugar and the Essential Spice, for whom he supplies guitar and vocals. He's now producing and performing all instruments on a new batch of original material. I think a tune, I want you to talk about that and promote that came out. He's got another tune in the can coming out soon.
I have to update that bio too, because I went out and hired, speaking of Star Faithful,
sure.
I hired AJ Valley to play drums on my latest songs. Cool. No longer playing all the instruments on the...
And Todd's got his own thing right now, his own band, going straightforward bluesy honky rock, and you heard how unbelievable on guitar he is, with influences from Robin Trower, Bad Company, Eric Clapton, Leonard Skinner, and early Fleetwood Mac. So welcome, Todd, and how are you doing?
I'm grand, man. Thank you so much.
Cool. I know you have a gig this weekend at Central Tavern in Milford. Yeah. This will probably come out after that. But and at the end, remind me to get your website and all that stuff sort of thing. Yeah. So I always start in the beginning, because that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up, and why did you do this foolish thing of picking up guitar?
Yeah, so I grew up in, like you said, bucolic. It was like right out of a Tolkien novel.
I bet.
In fact, Underhill. Underhill was the town I grew up in.
Underhill.
And that's Frodo Baggage's pseudonym. Right, he goes.
Really?
Right when he goes.
See, I'm not hip on that stuff.
When he goes in undercover, right? He becomes Mr. Underhill. Well, I grew up in Underhill, Vermont. It was just like right out of that book. I mean, it was. We lived on a plot of land that was like the earliest homestead, I guess you'd say, in the town. It was originally from the late 1700s.
Really? Wow.
And the foundation was still there from the old home, and a lot of the landscaping was still there, like apple trees and Concord grapes.
Is your family long-term Vermonters, or did your parents move up there one time?
So let's see, my mom was born in Vermont. My dad was born in Rhode Island, but he went to high school in Vermont, and that's where they met, you know. And then he worked for IBM, and he built the house up in Underhill, and I had an uncle, my mom's brother, who dabbled in guitar. I would say he was kind of semi-pro,
right.
But he was kind of rabid into the gear.
Right.
So he had some pretty nice guitars. I remember one time going over there, and he had one of those Jeff Beck blow-by-blow model Les Pauls. I guess it'd come out. This is probably in the 80s or something, a 10-year anniversary or something. He eventually joined the Air Guard. Eventually became
National Guard up there. They have a big base up there.
Yeah, he eventually ended up going to the Pentagon and became a general and the whole bit.
Really?
But when he left...
a rock and roll general.
Yeah.
Cool.
When he left, he gave me his guitars. He said, can't take them with me. So he gave me 2 electric guitars and a crate amp, right? An old...
So tell me about that. I know how old you are, so I'm thinking, what was that? You were 12?
10 to 12, somewhere in there.
So we're talking early 80s.
Yeah. I just gave my age away, man.
He looks 25, but he's not, man. He's not.
Yeah, thanks. So, I was 10 to 12, somewhere in there. I had, obviously shown interest. I was always really into music and always had really eclectic tastes. I mean, I remember,
as a little kid, 5, 6 years old.
Like 5, 6 years old, exactly.
You were hearing things.
Remember the Columbia House records?
Sure. You get a whole bunch of like a
right. So I remember being like, 6, maybe 5 or 6, and being like, into like picking them out with my mom, like, oh, we got to get this, that, and the other, right? And I still remember this day, some of the albums that we got that I wanted. One was Earth, Wind, and Fire's greatest hits. One was Boston's first album.
Yeah.
And then, oh God, I don't know if I can remember more than that. But those two kind of give you an idea of like, I was listening to like pop and disco and stuff.
Right.
I loved Chic.
Yeah.
I loved Earth, Wind, and Fire, but at the same time, I was getting into the rock and roll with
what's that thing?
Boston and Nile Rodgers stuff. Nile Rodgers, it's funny.
I love Nile Rodgers.
Coming here, you think about, I got to talk about, influences, and he didn't come to mind when I was thinking, but he absolutely is an influence.
That stuff, and with that
when I'm playing rhythm,
sound,
Nile Rodgers is definitely in there,
So tell me, so you got these guitars just out of the blue?
Yeah, well, I think...
Well, you kind of say, hey, Uncle, those guitars are really nice.
I think he gave me an acoustic guitar maybe first, and showed that I was interested, and then that was, you might as well have these as well. The first thing that really got me into really like, okay, I want to do this,
right?
Is this is eclectic taste, right? Al Stewart. Al Stewart's,
Al Stewart.
Well, You're the Cat is his most famous song.
Oh, right, I remember that.
But the first album I ever bought was Time Passages. And there's a guy named Tim Renwick, who was his guitar player. You got to check him out. If you don't know him, he's amazing. He went on to he toured with Pink Floyd. He backed up Clapton on some of his tours.
Cool.
He played on albums by David Bowie and Elton John and some other people, but really amazing stuff. The guitar solos on Al Stewart's albums are typically kind of orchestrated. Like, right, there's like a special section in the song just for the guitar solo. Right. That's different from the other parts of the song, And some of those guitar solos are just so majestic and magnificent, and with real feel and tone too.
Right,
it's not wanky stuff. It's really amazing stuff. And
kind of worked out, you think? You think it was?
I don't know. Tim Renwick is a really good guitar player.
The guitars, he always worked out his solos, and if you listen to him, because they're so exquisite. I mean, you can't just improvise what Elliott did.
I feel like there probably was some of that in there.
Yeah.
But it's hard to tell with his playing. He's so good. He's real virtuoso,
So you were a kid.
Yeah, and I heard that I was 7, 8 years old that time. This is before I got the guitars.
Right,
but I remember buying that album when it came out in 78, so I bought it probably in 78, 79.
Yeah.
And I just remember listening to that and being like, wow, just transfixed by the guitar work on that. Peter White is another guitar player that worked with him, who came into the band as a keyboard player and ended up doing a lot of guitar and ended up being a very well-known, like, smooth jazz guitar guy. And also one of the early, I had one of those K-Tel records, right?
Sure,
that had like a compilation, Solid Gold Rock or something like that.
Of all these tunes.
I had one of those when I was about the same age, and Robin Trower, Two Rolling Stone was on it. And Two Tickets to Paradise, which has a great Eddie Money, great guitar solo, right? Like one of the best guitar solos.
Yeah.
It's not like this crazy, amazing, like, oh my God, I can't believe you can play like that. It's all about the tone and the melody.
I've always been drawn to that versus 1,000 notes per minute.
One of the best
Although
guitar
I'm
solos
famous
ever.
for playing too many notes, but I really like those guys who can. Eric Clapton, one of my favorite guys of all time.
Once I got the guitars, that's basically, this is in the days of cassette. Like, I would go to my uncle's.
Cassette. See, I go back to the record days where we had to lift. He had
records.
You could back up.
I had records as well. I mean, I had records, but we always make mixtapes, right?
Of course, right.
So I had records, but I'd go to my uncle's house and he had a bunch of records. I'd make mixtapes of stuff that I liked, and sometimes record the whole album. So I could take it home with me, right? And so what I taught myself on, the ones that I can remember, the big one was Eric Clapton, Just One Night. It was a live album with Albert Lee as his second guitar player.
I love Albert. Albert. He was with him 5-6 years. And he was a monster guitar player onto his own and did his own. I don't know who he played with. A lot of those bands in the '60s. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a real country
or somebody
player.
Like that.
He's an English guy, but he's really a country player, and even that album, he's backing up Clapton, but that it was 70s Clapton. It had that country flavor a little bit. Yeah. So I mean, that's probably in there somewhere. Got its way into it too. Right. I would just listen to that over and over again, just try to play the stuff on it. And I also had the Doobie Brothers, Skunk Baxter, right? Another great guitar player.
I love Skunk.
Probably some early Steely Dan, which he was on as well.
Famous riff. I mean, they were great. All those riffs.
Well, that's the this terrible. I'll never forget his name, but that's the original lead guitar player singer of Doobie Brothers. Skunk was in when Michael McDonald came in. That was my era that I certainly
Skunk
heard China Grove
were in
and
Steely Dan first, or did they leave
Steely Dan first? Yeah.
Oh, they did, and they left Steely Dan, and I love that. I love that stuff. I love Steely Dan stuff.
Yeah.
And I love Skunk. My old school, that bizarre. And he supposedly, I don't know if that was that solo. I think it was that solo. He bought $100 from a pawn shop guitar, just brought it in. And it just goes to show it's not the guitar, it's often the guitar player. So you were listening to all that stuff. Now let me ask you, you were self-taught.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Did you get some books?
No.
Because there's no videos back then.
My uncle showed me, I think, sort of basic, like. And I think he was into Van Halen, so I think he showed, and I haven't played in whatever years, but that.
I was never a Van Halen guy, but I admire.
Yeah, I was never my thing either, but I always liked them, but I never ever tried to play like Eddie Van Halen. That was just never an area I wanted.
I mean, to interrupt right there, that just gives you guys out there in the audience an idea. There are 1 trillion different ways to play guitar. And 1 trillion different styles. Some people will play with picks. Some people, there's flamenco, there's classical, and it's good stuff, and is blues guy better than, I hate that whole concept of better. And it's like, is Eddie Van Halen better than Eric Clapton? I like both of them.
Yeah, this argument's kind of silly, really.
Picasso, Renoir.
If you wanted to ask me, who was the greatest all-around rock and roll guitar player, I'd pick Jimmy Page.
Right.
Just because he's so versatile, right? He can do so many different things so well. And
prior to Led Zeppelin, he was a studio guy.
Yeah.
He was doing tunes
he knew his
Donovan
stuff really well. And you look at Hendrix. Stevie Ray Vaughan or Eric Clapton were virtuosos in their own right, but fairly limited in scope of what they, at least what they did on record. I mean, not to say that they couldn't do the things Jimmy Page did, but we have a record of what Jimmy Page did.
I interviewed a guy, Scott Turley, recently. He said they didn't have to. You know what I mean? They did their own thing.
They did their thing, and that's all they needed to do.
It's like, I've said this, I was listening to a Robin Ford interview yesterday. Robin Ford's probably one of my favorite guitar players of all time. Doesn't read at all. And when he was a studio player in LA, they throw him these big orchestra, one of the great guitar players of all time, and he's like, what are these notes? Flats and sharps. What is this stuff? And I'm like, really? Wow. But he didn't need to. You know? So you tell me back again. You're a kid. This is a frustrating thing.
Many hours down in the basement.
This is a frustrating thing here, you know, because it's a grid here. You know, you got these rows and these columns. This has a meaning.
That's when I figured out how to do it, when I realized it was a grid. You know, I mean, for years I just sort of hacked at it, not knowing exactly what I was doing.
Right, so you were C, F, G, you got those chords, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you started?
So I did like guitar at school, like a guitar group kind of thing.
Oh, really? Cool. That's how I did it with a nun in 4th grade,
like C and F and that kind of thing. But there was no lead stuff going on. It wasn't even that complex.
Yeah,
it was mostly just strumming, you know, kind of thing. And I think I only did that for a few weeks or whatever. Yeah. Not even that complex.
Right.
Yeah, really. You're it's way too fancy. But so most of it was me. You know, The Who was really huge for me when I was a kid too. So so I'm trying to play Pete Townsend stuff, which is that much more complex because he used a lot of, you know, I basically call them like jazz chords in a rock context.
And Pete does not get the recognition.
Oh, no. He's my number two
guitar player. He influenced me big time. You know, I played a concert last week and I saw a video of it and I was doing, doing that, doing that sort of stuff because it's all related to Pete.
Listen, he got a bad rap as a lead guitar player, but God, if you listen to the live stuff, Live at Leeds.
Oh, I have that. That's one of my favorite albums of all time.
That's some of the best lead guitar playing I've ever heard.
To this point, you were just going down that road of
cranking an SG through those high-watt amps.
Starting about 8. I have to. My mother's passed away, but I have to thank my mother because starting about 8 in my room with Live at Leeds and all that stuff and
I have Pete Townsend to thank for, learning an E minor 7 chord way before probably most people do. He has that big E minor 7 on Young Man Blues, And
nice.
He had all those, suspended kind of chords. I mean,
he invented that.
I haven't played it in a while, but like the beginning of Bargain. Those chords are really kind of interesting. That's probably my favorite song ever. I think the best recorded rock and roll song ever.
The album, that is from Who's Next?
Who's Next,
which was, to me, the greatest. I don't know, maybe Led Zeppelin 2. But there's about 5 or 6 albums that you got. Layla,
all 4 of them are doing like extraordinary things on that song.
Right.
But really, John Entwistle and Keith Moon are probably doing the most extraordinary stuff. If you listen to Bargain and just sit back and really listen to what the hell's going on there.
I saw them at that time at the Wang Center. It was called the Music Hall back then. They were 4 nights, and I was like 15 years old. It was 1970. Man. And somehow, someway, I had no money. Somehow, someway, I got into all 4 concerts. And you know what happened to one of them? Because they would fight. We were talking about this on the ride over here about how difficult all this in bands. Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend actually playing next week. At probably Fenway Park, I think. And they've battled over the years, man. They are 2 tough guys, and I believe Roger's the toughest of them. Yeah. But I saw them, Todd.
He's a real street kid.
And 4th or 5th song into the night, Pete got pissed, threw his guitar, knocked over his high-watt amps, and walked out the door. And the story was, I read in the paper the next day, just got in the cab and left.
Yeah.
So that's it. But Pete was a big guy for me. So so you were doing all of this again. We didn't have video back then.
No.
To confirm these 2 things on our side of our head called ears.
Yeah.
And it's, again, I want to talk about your sight impairment and how that might have helped with your ears or so. But that's all we had back in those days. Because you weren't working with a teacher?
No. Yeah.
Did you ever? Until you got to Berkeley?
Just the one little thing at school, learning how to play C chord and F chord.
That's remarkable, man.
So
it was all ears.
It was all ears. It took a long time. I mean, so if I started 10 or 12, I actually stopped for a year. I think when I was 7th grade, 8th grade, maybe a year. I kind of stopped, lost interest, and then I got back into it full bore freshman year in high school. It wasn't until junior year in high school, really, that I borrowed a book from a friend, and I saw.
Remember the name of the book? Was it Melbay or one of those?
I have no idea. Yeah, but I saw the grid. I saw the pentatonic scale laid out for me, and I was like, "That's it. That's easy."
Can you show? Oh, let's do it. A. And just. Especially the straight ahead one, which is 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4. I'm back teaching right now, and I get people who first lesson you can solo. First lesson, now follow me. Learn this thing here, and I'm gonna play any note in there.
It's really simple,
right? And once you learn that, there are about a trillion other things to learn, but
not really.
When you're 12, 13. You can get a bunch of buddies in a garage and we'll do what we just did, and it'll sound
That's
good.
why the light switch went on so quick, though, because so I play a lot of piano.
Right.
In piano, if you change key, you got to change your fingering on every key, right? But guitar, you don't. You just move it up and down.
So we just did that in A. We do it a bit. The light will go off.
Yeah, the light went on immediately. I mean, I saw that. I picked up the guitar, and I was playing those Clapton solos, the Hendrix solos. I was playing all of them because I was like, oh my God, they're all the same. They're just the same. And you just have to move up and down the neck. And then, the major pentatonic was in there too.
Yeah, so you do like a... a lot of those same forms, and I changed it totally from that a blues sort of thing to this, what I would call diatonic, or in the key of C, kind of nice sounding major chords. And we could do something minor, A minor. The same chords and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
and if you're playing like a minor thing like that, you're only just basically adding in like some of these kind of the 6 and
the 4,
the 2,
right?
Which if you're just playing a straight pentatonic, you're just doing the 2 comes in the middle.
And a lot of rock guitar players miss that. They want to still play with the pentatonic from the Greek penta for 5 notes. And we all know that we really have 12 notes. So there are a whole bunch of notes there that we're missing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That would have been the next step, was sort of finding out, of course, bending. You know, bending the G string, you know,
right.
Because that's like almost every solo you hear, but guys, you know. But then throwing in like little half step stuff, like, you know.
B.B. King is famous for that sort of thing. Just little stuff like that.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was really like opening a door, switching on a light. Really, that day, I saw those.
We're talking
things.
High school, 15, 16.
Yeah. And I saw that, and I just, because I had worked so hard for so long, I'd built up the dexterity and everything.
Right.
So once I could do it, I could just do it. Right. I could do it really well.
Now, did you get a bunch of guys and do high school dances?
So
or where did it go from there?
I got drafted into like the high school band. There was only one really at the time in my high school, you know. I'm not the high school band, I should say. You know, it was a rock,
I have an image of a tiny
band.
town, like 3,000 people.
The high school was fairly good size. I mean, we had 200 kids in my class.
Wow, okay,
So,
that's a lot.
Size.
Yeah.
So 800 kids in the high school.
Yeah.
As far as I remember, there was only one, you know, sort of rock band that was like playing shows and going out, whatever. And so I got in that band. I started playing guitar. We wrote stuff, you know, did a lot of covers.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, it was the 80s. So, I mean, we did classic rock stuff like Pink Floyd and whatnot. But I feel like we did some 80s kind of music as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to remember.
Cars?
But, you know, I just...
Oh, like hair band stuff?
No,
you know, Duran.
Shoot. Maybe, probably would have been more like alternative stuff, or like The Cure or something like that. The guy who was the lead singer, bass player, who looked a lot like Robert Smith, you know,
right.
The Cure.
And again, back in those days, there are cool things right now called something called UltimateGuitar.com that it's kind of like a Wikipedia that somebody has, guys out there in the world, men and women out in the world, have figured out every song. It's like, and it's when I have to do something expeditiously, I go to ultimate.com and I'm like, okay, someone's already figured out the chord, so I don't have to sit around. But back in those days, you guys were probably, is that an F sharp minor 7 there, or what is that chord?
Yeah. So again, I mean, because I'd worked so hard at that for so long, once I knew where to go, it came pretty quickly to me to pick up songs. And you know, even today, you know, typically I can hear a song. Usually one time is enough for me to learn. Okay, I've got that.
And I do that often too, man. I'll be going to a gig and I have to learn a song and I don't have my guitar, but I'm driving. But the ears, after 50 some odd years,
you
it's
can
like,
just listen to it. You don't even have to play
again,
it.
I think I've talked about this in this show before, that musicians give numeric values to chords. So, you know, as I was playing earlier with him, that's a 1 chord, that's a C in the key of C, and then I went to a 6 chord and whatever. So, but I'm listening as I'm driving down the street. I'm there, okay, that's 1 6, and it's easier said than done, you know, because you get to the gig and it's like, how did that tune go again? Yeah. And it's interesting because I do a duo thing, and it's nothing for me to pull up my iPhone and go, oh yeah. You can't do that in a band sort of thing. So take me through. So you get out of high school, and so that band didn't go on trying to get record contracts, or No. So where'd you go to college, and why didn't you go to music school? Or tell me all about that.
We could spend a whole show and hours of psychotherapy, I guess.
Because I've been to about 4 or 5 guys, and half of them went down that Berkeley road in Berkeley, as we all know, and half of them didn't, but then came back to being pro musicians.
I guess in my mind, and again, you know, I think there were a lot of things going on in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, folks weren't probably too thrilled with me going into music as a profession.
It's interesting because you're the 5th guy I think I've interviewed.
Yeah, I mean, I was
4 of those guys had supportive parents, and my mother was supportive. I could do anything.
Say they weren't.
My father was like, I got accepted to Berkeley. He said, well, good luck with that. You know,
I think, you know, I was an actor as well, and you know, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to act. I wanted to play music, but and when it comes down to it, I just didn't have the guts to go and do that. You know,
art. I don't care what art you're talking about. Dance.
I can talk all about whether or not my parents supported that idea or not. It would all come down. I was an adult. I could have just gone and done it. Right. So I didn't, and I went to the University of Miami.
Really? Which has an unbelievable music school.
Yeah, that's great, right? I didn't go for music.
Pat Metheny went there. I think most of the guys in his band, Lyle Mays, a bunch of those guys went to University of Miami.
Yeah, because you fill out these things, they hook you up with roommates based on your interest and whatever, right? So like all my roommates were in the music engineering program, which is it was certainly one of the best in the country, and at the time maybe it was the best. I don't know, so I was hanging out with musicians, music engineers, and everything, and I was there for I basically decided, well, if I'm not going to do music or acting, I'll do something that's like a profession that sort of kind of is on the periphery of those things. For broadcast, communications, basically broadcasting. And then I always wrote a little bit, so I did a double major in English creative writing. And I was on the radio, voice, right?
Oh, I think you do, man. You get that low voice.
So I used to be on the radio. I did college radio, and then after that, when I went back to Vermont, I was on the radio up there. And I started really seriously writing there at Miami, though. So it was like my junior or senior year at Miami.
Writing tunes.
Yeah, we started to really write. Yeah, sorry, because I spoke about the other writing. But writing songs, I really started writing songs, full bore, I guess, say, junior, senior year. And then we talked about the eyesight thing. You should probably go back. I was diagnosed.
When was that?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
But it's a lot of people. I have retinitis pigmentosa. Some people will know what it is. It's a genetic thing. It's on my mother's side of the family.
Wow.
And everybody's different. My mom and my brother have it. They both got it. It came on. When they were older, 20s, 30, and their vision's worse than mine. But they're much more severe cases. I still have some vision, especially out of my right eye. I could certainly never drive. I say never. A lot of exciting things going on in the technology. But my left eye's pretty bad. My right eye still has some vision, so I can see you, and I can still read to some extent. Reading's a little tough, but I can do it. And so I was diagnosed as a little kid. The first thing went with the night vision. That was how they knew. Well, I couldn't see stars. That was the first thing. It was sort of the family knew the signs, right? The family knows the signs, right?
I bet.
And so somebody noticed, couldn't see stars when I was like maybe 4 or 5 years old, something like that. And so they diagnosed me, but that was sort of the only thing that was the issue. Night vision went, the peripheral vision didn't really start going until probably more like in high school or so. And even then it was still very gradual. I drove until I was 28.
Wow.
And that was maybe a year or two beyond where I should have stopped, probably. I think any of us who are in that situation, you kind of try to prolong it as much as you can. But thankfully, I didn't hurt anybody or myself. And before I decided that, I need to stop. The last time I drove was when I drove the U-Haul down to Boston. When I moved to Boston, I drove the U-Haul. Turned it. In fact, my girlfriend at the time even she drove the U-Haul into Boston to turn it in. Because it's like, I don't need to drive in Boston.
It's pretty crazy around, especially Fenway.
So that was the last time I drove. And I've had, despite the so unlucky eyesight thing, I've had a lot of lucky circumstances though. That girl I spoke of, she was from Vermont. I met her in Vermont, but she lived in Boston. And, I met her and, I'm thinking of moving to Boston. And then that all, she had a realtor friend that snagged me the place in Fenway, which was just, a 15-minute walk from Berkeley. And, a 5-minute walk from Fenway Park. I'm a diehard, lifelong Red Sox fan.
Great,
so that was pretty cool. I was there in 2004. Just walked out my door and watched the parade.
About a fertile music area.
Yeah.
Everybody is a musician down there. It's really cool.
Yeah. So it was only 2 years. It's funny. It seems like I was here so long before I started going to Berkeley, but it was only 2 years. I got here in '98, and I started going in 2000. And it was just like, I've got a boatload of debt. Let's just pile some more on there. Why not?
From your original University of Miami sort of thing, right? Okay.
So I had a boatload of debt, and I was just, this is sort of what I always wanted. At that time, I was 30. So
you started Berkeley at 30.
When I was in Vermont, I took the original thing. I put the band together, and I came down here. I performed at Nemo. They still have that?
Doesn't ring a bell.
It's like South by Southwest, but the Boston version. And I don't know if they still have it, but NEMO. I think it was New England.
Yeah, they have Boston Calling now, which your band would be perfect for.
All right, I can just check into that.
Yeah.
But so I came down here for that. like the year before I moved down here, and that kind of sowed the seed for I should probably move to Boston,
right?
Because that was pretty good. I had like an independent label was interested, you know, when they one of my songs was on the promotional CD, actually at the same time as Sex and Candy. That was Marcy Playground, right?
Yep.
That was on the CD. My song was on the CD. That was the only song that became a hit. But so there was an independent label that was, we talked, we hung out a little bit. I honestly can't remember how it dissolved and never came to anything. But so I moved to Boston. A couple years later, I decided, what the hell, Berkeley's right there. Take out some loans and let's do it,
You started as a freshman for ear training 101, harmony 101, and arranging 101, etc.
What was cool was, and that's really what I got out of it most was the arranging and production.
Cool.
I was a contemporary writing production major, and I double majored in guitar because I already had a liberal arts degree.
Right.
So I didn't have to take all those courses. Right. So I might as well take more music courses.
Which I did. I got a mus ed degree, so I had to take history and English and all that stuff. And that's too bad because it takes away from your music. But that's cool. You were able to immerse yourself.
And I did, and I really threw myself into it. The first time I went to college, I did okay. I graduated like a 3 GPA.
Right.
But this time, I was 30 and I'm serious, and I'm going to kick butt. I graduated Berkeley with close to 3.7.
And you do have some older kids there, older people there, right?
There's not all. I was the old man in most of the classes.
Really?
Yeah, there was occasional people.
You see, when I graduated Berkeley, when I was there in the 70s, there were a lot of Vietnam vets. So a lot of guys were coming 30, 35 years old back in those days. And it was a very different school then. It was a trade school then, and there were like 1,000 people, if that. Yeah. And there were 900 guitar players.
Well, it's still kind of like that. I mean, honestly, when I went was about when they started kind of letting everybody in.
And they have a big vocal push too. It's after
American Idol exactly. It was really right about that time.
And that's the biggest program now, I'm told, is their vocal program. It's bigger than guitar.
There were a lot of people coming in there that, probably shouldn't have been there. I should say, though, that if they didn't have such a liberal
admission policy,
thank you, I might not have gotten in. Because I didn't have a real deep background of theory. And I took a music theory course in high school. Yeah. I knew how to read music, but I couldn't sight read.
Right. And that's a big thing there because the ensembles are half political and half, you got to be able to read. And if you are in with the right people and you can read, you go right to the top ensembles. And the top ensembles in Berkeley.
Yes.
The key about Berkeley is one thing, connections. That can help you with your
ratings.
Entire career. right.
That was about this ensemble. So, I would get in ensembles that were great, that had a lot of great players in them, and were like myself, had terrible ratings because we're self-taught or whatever.
Right.
But because of those terrible ratings, I also was in some ensembles that had people I was like, how are these people even here? In Berkeley, it's wasting their money,
I mean, Berkeley, I don't know when you were in 2000s, right?
2000.
I don't know what they were charging then, but right now it's right up there with BU and everything. It's like 50 some odd grand. So it's a real. It's expensive, just as expensive as anything.
Yeah.
So take me through that. So you did all of that. Were you gigging during that time at Berkeley?
A little. There was a classic rock band that I think we did a few gigs.
Yeah.
And then I remember one of the cool shows I did. We did an Aerosmith show, at Berkeley. Excuse me. And it was this giant snowstorm that night. Just a ridiculous snowstorm. It was in the cafeteria, right? They used to have shows in the cafeteria.
Cool.
I don't know if they did it every week or whatever.
Yeah.
But there were a bunch of people there, and we played really well, and it was just a fun night. And you remember it because of the snowstorm.
Were you doing Aerosmith covers?
Yeah, it was all Aerosmith. It was an Aerosmith show. Yeah. So I was one of the guitar players.
Cool. So that kind of stuff. Yeah.
All the hits.
Yeah.
Remember, what's that one? Seasons of Wither, right?
Yeah, I'm not Mr. Aerosmith, man. I never really got
I was basically the second guitar on that, but I got the solo on that one, and you have to hit this feedback note, and you just have to put your finger into the string and just dig it in do this and hope point your guitar at the amp and hope that super high pitch.
There is a bit of magic when it comes to feedback.
Nailed it.
That is cool.
Nailed it. They just nailed that high pitch, perfect timing. Right? If you all
I don't
know
want to
the
skip
song,
over stuff.
go
Man.
listen to the song.
We got 15 minutes, but I want to two things. First of all, if you noticed, if you take a real good look at Todd's guitar here, he has tape strategically in various places. Can you tell the folks at home why that is the case?
Yeah. So now my vision is really bad. And especially I mean, I really kind of picked the wrong profession.
You hit it well for me. I picked him up at his house. He walked out. He was carrying his amp and stuff.
It was daylight, and I know, and it was I know where to go.
Right, but I noticed when you're coming in, you needed help getting in here.
Yeah, because it's a new place. I've never been here.
Right, man.
I had no idea what to expect.
And there are a lot of cables on the floor, right?
So, but bars and clubs are dark. They're really dark. And so I put these on just to give me a little extra help. I've tried in recent years to play more without looking. But if you want to, if you're down here, you also want to go, right up to the upper octave. It can be pretty hard to do that without looking.
Right. And we all do it in a millisecond, but we all do it. We're looking.
It's a very.
It's an anchor. It's like and if you take a look at all the guitars, like his guitar, there are little dots above here, but you're not going to see them in a dark club.
Can't see those, and
so it doesn't hurt.
Even the
sound
the
with
fret,
having that tape
inlays.
It doesn't hurt the sound at all.
No, it doesn't bother it at all. Cool. They're actually it's supposedly glow in the dark tape. I don't know if it does or not, but it probably makes it a little easier to see. Mm-hmm. But but now I've gotten. I still have it on there, but now I just I bring a light to all my gigs, and if it's so dark that I'm having any trouble, if I'm just not comfortable at all, I put the damn light on, and I just put it on a mic stand. I put it up here, and I don't care if it looks stupid. It makes me sound good. Sounding good is much cooler than looking cool, right?
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about your. I don't want to skip over things, but we do have a clip we're going to play here. Can you intro what this clip is going to be about?
I just put together a couple of things from last couple of gigs.
What's the name of the band?
Todd Michael Smith Band.
And is there and the website is?
Guitar Todd, TODD, guitar TODD.com is the website for me. There's a Facebook page, Todd Michael Smith Music.
Cool.
Okay. And that, these days, Facebook is probably the place to go. It's got, all the videos and the gigs that are coming up and everything, and sound clips and whatnot.
And before we get to this clip, just remind me, you're a technologist type. You're working at Perkins doing technology stuff. Yeah. How is that with eyesight and using computers?
Yeah, so because I still have some vision, if I have two sets of reading glasses.
Super duper glasses of some sort?
They're just store-bought readers. Yeah. And I have one for reading that are more high-powered, and then I have sort of a medium one for reading the computer. I have to use the high contrast. I flip it around. If I'm doing my work that I do, the audio transcription work I spoke about, right? I use the yellow on black. Yellow type on black background. Cool. Much easier to see.
Because I was wondering, I've been communicating with him, getting the show together, and you were right back to me. And
the phone's okay.
I'm wondering how this guy's doing it.
I got, I have glasses that I can see the phone.
Okay, so intro this clip. What do you got going on in this clip?
So there's just clips. I just some segues between some clips of different songs. I think the first one is "Freedom" by Jimi Hendrix.
Cool. I love that. That's cool.
We laughed about, we talked about, in the set we have "Freedom," "Day of the Eagle" by Robin Trower, "Born Under a Bad Sign" by Albert King.
Yeah.
And then my song "Silence." They're all in the C sharp, and they're really it's "Born Under a Bad Sign" was what we're all ripping off. Right. But yeah, all the riffs are fairly similar. And oh my God, we're all ripping off Albert King. So that's, unfortunately, I don't have my original in any of these clips. We haven't caught that on video live yet.
But people can get that on Spotify?
You could, yes. It's called "Silence," and it's on all the streaming services, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, et cetera, YouTube.
So we're going to go to this clip right now, so we'll check out this clip. So the band's kicking. You're going out and playing all over the place. What else did I want to talk about? Influences. Tell me more about the influences.
So many. So the big three are the obvious, the Yardbirds fellows, Clapton, Beck, and Page.
Right, the three big guys.
Yeah, they come out.
They should be up like, you know how the presidents are up on the mountain? They should be right up there. I don't know, maybe Dwayne Allman should be up on there for a fourth guy, and Pete Townsend.
Well, to be fair, it's Freddie King and Albert Collins and B.B. King.
Do you like Buddy
Albert
Guy?
King, Buddy Guy, sure. Freddie King especially was a huge influence on, all those guys, Albert King, it's so funny, everybody knows Stevie Ray Vaughan, and you go and listen to Albert King and like, what? He plays like Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I talked about this to my last guy we were talking about is because I was your typical guy. I'm a little bit older than you. So in the early 60s, I picked up guitar at 10. So that's mid-60s. And I started listening immediately to Stones and Beatles, and especially the Stones. I'm there, man, I really like this stuff. I thought they invented it.
Yeah.
They didn't invent it. Yeah. And they're the first guys to admit it. And they're the first guys to talk about their influences.
Yeah, and they brought them over there.
Which then goes to the question I always ask guys is men and women who are guitar players, what do you define yourself as a guitar player? I'm thinking you're a blues guy.
Well, rock. I'd probably go more, blues rock for sure.
Or is it rock blues?
We'll go with blues rock, I guess.
Okay, cool.
But there have been so many players that have influenced me. Peter Green, the early Fleetwood Mac stuff.
Right. I just recently got into him because I was jamming with a band who was doing that. I really didn't know. I never was a Fleetwood Mac fan. I just never liked the band. Lindsey Buckingham can play.
He's a great
he can play,
player
and
as well.
He doesn't use a pick. It's all this, and he plays a lot of faster. I don't know how he does that, but I just wasn't into it for some reason.
Yeah, and him and Mark Knopfler. Mark Knopfler's another finger picker, and both of them influenced me as well.
I never knew that until his recent Guitar Player magazine.
Yeah, I played a lot of finger
Why is that?
Too much metal in his playing. I've heard some of his stuff where he's playing this amazing solo with this amazing tone. He sounds just like Paul Kossoff, who was another big influence from Free, right? And obviously a big influence on him. And then all of a sudden he'll put in like this metal riff,
like a
just like a total
right
like
hand.
Steve Vai or
and
one of those guys.
Nothing of Steve Vai. I listen. Exactly. Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani. I'm there.
Joe Satriani, He's like that kind of stuff. It's not my bag. Yeah, it's not my bag. And when I hear a guy,
bad. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I just don't like it, man. Again, it's the old. I'd rather hear Clapton go.
Because there's no feeling in a scale.
And again, I was a typical Berkeley guy. I got into Joe Pass. I did all that stuff. But as we were driving here, I'm there, man. The older I get, the more I like simple, nothing overdub. And that's how Tom Petty did 90% of his stuff. All live.
Mike Campbell is another influence.
I love the guy.
Yeah. Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top.
Right. You reminded me of talking about gear. We were talking about gear earlier, and you play heavier strings than most of us are playing 09s.
Yeah.
Which you go. You do 010s and sometimes 11s.
Well, they're 10s, quote, in a pack they'd be called 10s, but I put an 11 on the E string.
Right.
Because, I'm just constantly, I'll probably break it right now. I'm constantly doing like, that kind of stuff.
I never use my fourth finger, though. I always use my third finger for that.
Yeah.
You have guitar player fingers, man.
I've always used my pick, especially down here. On the lower frets, just because you can reach. But yeah, and then especially if I want to really bend a note up here, why not use all your fingers,
Sure.
If you're, and I know a lot of guitar players play I can't even do it, but I see them with their pinky like sticking out, and it's just all 3 fingers.
Well, that's a rock guitar player plays.
25% less.
A lot of rock players.
You can do, right?
That's just because they grew up with that.
Yeah.
I can't even do it. My fourth finger's going to
really
be out there.
dig into those. I'll go back to the third here, but if I want to really dig into the E string, even then, when I rest down, I usually land on my pinky.
Talk about your current rig for your club thing.
Can they see this on the TV?
I don't think so. Can you guys see it? No, you can't. They can't see it.
Right. So I have a little lunchbox, right? I have the orange.
So that's your
Micro Terror.
That's what
I use, yeah. Because I have 2 of them. Yeah, they're $150 a piece. They sound great. They're a hybrid tube, solid state. They weigh like, I don't know, 2 pounds, just a few pounds.
Wow.
I can throw 2 of them in my backpack and still have room to put all my pedals.
And you're getting the overdrive from that. Is it?
Yeah, there's overdrive built in, and it's got tons of power. It's 20 watts. I've never.
You got a 112 in that Marshall?
There's a 115 in the Marshall.
Oh, 15. Wow.
But I have a 2x12 that I've been using a lot lately too, a Laney. But I've never had to dial that beyond 10, 11 o'clock.
Cool.
Never. Yeah, and most places you play, they put a mic in front of it anyway.
And how much wattage did you say?
20.
20 watts.
And the speakers I have handle 7500 or whatever, And like I said, I've never even had to come close to, I've never gone past noon. Never gone past noon with it.
Okay, so let's, we're going to wrap up because we have that video clip here. I was thinking of focusing on that minor blues we were just doing. In A minor?
We'll see you. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Cool.